Hello everybody and welcome to my countdown to Wasteland month. This is week 1. If you don't know, I'm going to be doing my 3 favorite Hand and Letter films, which probably most of you can guess what they are. They're probably the top 3 Hand and Letter films in most people's lists here. So, because it is a Hand and Letter reunion, if you will, for Cinema Wasteland. So I'm going to be doing my, not just reviewing, but more talking about them. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth than I normally do, talk a little bit more about, go a little bit longer into what happens in the movie. So this is going to be a little bit of a departure. I'm just going to be me kind of rambling on, and on and on. So first, week 1, Countdown to Wasteland, is Brain Damage. This one's from 1987. It is one of the more strange Hand and Letter films, which is weird to say because they're all sort of strange and odd. But it's basically about a guy named Brian who he gets a parasite, basically. A parasite named Aylmer. Aylmer. With an A. And Aylmer will inject its host with a psychedelic LSD-like drug. The victim and or addict can expect to see colors and lights and all sort of wacky stuff. LSD-like. Not that I've ever done that stuff. But that's what it seems like, or what I've heard it's like. Something like that. Anyway, but of course, it's a drug, basically. And drugs aren't free. You gotta pay for it somehow. Well, Aylmer doesn't want money. He's not your typical drug dealer. He's a parasite thing. Yeah, and he wants brains. He eats brains. Now, his former owners and or addicts were feeding him animal brains, which keeps his strength down. But Aylmer got away from them. Now he's with Brad. Brian. Why do I want to call him Brad? I don't know. Brian. Brian doesn't know anything about Aylmer. He just knows that Aylmer gets him high, and he wants to stay high. So Aylmer will drug him up and let him go out on the town, and while Brian's in a drug-induced woohoo look at the colors on the cars, Aylmer will find a victim and eat their brains. Now, another effect to this drug is that Brian doesn't remember much afterwards. So, until he finds blood in his underwear one night. Why is there blood in his underwear? Well, one night, they go out, and they go to a club, and they meet a girl. And the girl can tell that Brian is high. So she sort of takes advantage of him. And as she takes him out back to go down on him, or what she thinks is him, Aylmer comes out of his pants. And as she's going down on this, what she thinks is Brian, it's actually Aylmer, Aylmer sucks her brains out and pulls them back through Brian's pants. Brian, after he's finally sober again, he can looks at his underwear and he doesn't understand. There's blood in his pants. This is when he meets the former owners of Aylmer. He learns that Aylmer is a ancient thing. He's ancient. He's been passed down through the centuries to different owners. Nobody can ever control Aylmer, but this old couple seem to do it, and they really want him back because they're addicted. They're addicts to his drug. They look terrible. I mean, they're pale and they black lips, and they look like they're dying. But Brian's not going to give him up because now Brian's an addict. So, but he's not really comfortable with the killing. He's not comfortable with the brain eating, the brain sucking. So he tries to get off of Aylmer's juice. But he can't. He's an addict, and he has to have the juice. And that is when things really start going downhill. People he cares about start getting hurt. Um, so, and obviously, this is a story really about drug addiction. It's a metaphor for drug addiction, drug addicts, and sort of, the bad shit that can happen to you. Um, it also has a sexual undertone. Obviously, if you haven't seen the BJ scene, if you haven't seen this movie, um, I'm sure you've seen this movie. Um, anyway, the BJ scene that I was talking about, obviously, it's not really an undertone. That's pretty in your face, but Aylmer is sort of phallic. I mean, he's a worm sort of parasite with like a big brain on the top of his head, and which is very phallic in appearance. Um, Aylmer is injecting things into Brian. Um, it's got some sexual undertones to it also. Um, and it is one of my favorites. Brain Damage. Really crazy, gory, um, fun movie. Um, as fun as drug addiction can be. That's a joke. It's not. I mean, I'm really not an addict. I know I made that LSD joke earlier, but I don't do drugs, so. Um, but I have known addicts before, and they're not fun to be around. Um, actually, one guy I know, probably the most intelligent person I've ever met, was an addict, and he's apparently off the stuff. I don't talk to him much, but they're not fun to be around. Um, but enough of the serious stuff. The effects in this are really cool. Elmer, of course, is a little puppet, and the effects were done by Gabe Bartalos, who's going to be at Wasteland, along with the only other person from Brain Damage that will be there is director Frank Henenlotter. Nobody else from Brain Damage is going to be there besides Henenlotter and Bartalos. Interesting little fact about this is the voice of Aylmer there is Zachary. Zachary from Chiller Theater, who was a horror host in the New Jersey area, I believe. And that's where sort of the whole Chiller Theater convention sort of spawned from, was that series. And Zachary's always at Chiller, apparently. I've never been to Chiller. It's one of those ones I've always wanted to make it to, but New Jersey's a bit of a drive for me, so I never make it that far. But it's supposed to be a pretty killer convention. But yes, Zachary is the voice. We also get a cool cameo from Kevin Van Hentrick of Basket Case. Brian and his girlfriend are on a subway when Kevin pops in with his basket and is sort of looking at the two of them. And as the conversation goes on, he starts to get the hint that maybe he wants to leave because there's something not quite right with this guy. Because he's pretty familiar with some not right stuff. So he gets up, but it's pretty funny. He gets on there with that big old basket and has that crazy look in his eye. So, yeah, Basket Case, certainly one of my favorites. Basket Case. Brain Damage, certainly one of my favorites. As for this disc, there's not much on it. There is an audio commentary with Henenlotter. That's about it. But this is the uncut version. I'm sure most of you guys out there have this. There's another one that is, I don't exactly know what the difference is, but it's got a silver around it. It's got silver around it. It was released by Synapse. My buddy Loop has it. I think I'm gonna go over there tomorrow, so I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm sure a lot of you may have it out there. You might be able to say exactly what the difference is. But I think that one's limited. I don't know to how many, but yeah. So there it is. brain damage. Next week we will continue the series, and yeah, well, that's it. That's brain damage, and this is week 1 of the countdown to Wasteland. Hopefully we'll have that sort of special video that I'm going to do next week, hopefully, if I can get all the things done for it I need. It's just something a little different that I've never done before. So anyway, I will see you guys very soon.